to another Zelda podcast. I'm your host, Kady, and today's a little weird because I'm not here with David. I'm here instead with Al from the Zelda Cast.
Hello! I'm so excited to be here.
I'm very excited too. So right now we are, as of recording this, at the Zelda Dungeon big week-long marathon stream thing, which is really, really cool, and I'm having a blast getting to be here. Do you want to just talk a little bit about what you guys have been up to?
Yeah, so I'm with the Zelda Cast, which is, a podcast under Zelda Dungeon, the website, and every summer we do a marathon where we stream for a week long all of the Zelda games that we could possibly think of. A lot of gimmicks, a lot of other cool mini things are in there as well. Like you guys joined us for Guess That Zelda Tune. It was very fun. But basically, we're streaming so that we can raise money for a charity that we pick. We pick a different one every year, usually centered around children. This year, it's for No Kid Hungry, and it's to help, feed kids or get the resources so that children can be fed these meals. So I believe it is $1. Every dollar helps with potentially 10 meals for kids. Mm-hmm. So that's fantastic. I think we are about $6,000 in on the 4-day mark. So so far we're having an awesome time and it's doing really well.
Yeah, it's been a blast. There's so many different people here from just all over. It's been really fun getting to talk with everyone. Mm-hmm. So before we hop into today, I have a little bit of listener feedback.
Perfect.
So all of these are from Apple Podcasts. Our first one, it's just 3 hearts in green. It's from Siren Cosplay, who I love very much. It says, absolutely love this podcast. It is one of my favorites. I discovered AZP a while ago through the Zelda Cast and have been slowly listening through your back catalog of episodes. Shout out from another Chicago, Milwaukee area local. I love when occasionally David or Kate mentions something theater related since I work in theater as a costume technician and listen to your podcast while making things in the shop. Zelda in a roundabout way got me into my theater career as well, but that's a story from another time. Keep up the awesome work.
That's nice.
That's very nice.
Yeah.
So thank you for having us on because clearly we get to kind of swap listeners a little bit, which is really cool. I'm very curious about that story about how Siren got into theater through Zelda.
Yeah.
I'm a big theater person. I don't know if you are.
No, I'm not. But it's kind of cool when you talk to other Zelda people and you realize how Zelda has been incorporated into their real life or has done something for them in their real life and how they live their life or career. Or you guys had another one on an episode we joined you on where another listener feedback where they were talking about how they got into music because of Zelda.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool because I have those kind of stories as well, and I'm sure you do too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, it's super cool. And I've seen a bit of Siren stuff because they're very active within the Another Zelda podcast Discord, and their cosplays are just fantastic.
Awesome.
It's really cool. All right, moving on to the next one. Yiga Clan forever. Me and my sister love The Legend of Zelda. Wow, I've already used 2 exclamation points. We got a Switch at the beginning of 2023, and every Saturday we would play Mario Kart. Then my friend told me about Breath of the Wild, and I thought it looked cool, so I got it. Me and my sister quickly became super fans. I have played, I'm guessing it says Breath of the Wild, Skyward Sword, and Tears of the Kingdom. Breath of the Wild is still my favorite. Zelda has been kind of a bonding experience, and I love the Yiga Clan. Love your podcast, and may the goddess smile upon you.
That's so cute.
That is very cute. I have a very similar experience for getting into it. Not as recent as you, although welcome, another new person that I can kind of bond with. But when the Switch first came out and I traded my Wii U in for it, I was like, I don't know what to get. I'll just get a Just Dance game or something. And I asked the GameStop employee, I was like, what would you recommend? And he's like, well, if you want a game that really gets your times out of it, get Breath of the Wild. So I was like, okay, sure. I mean, I've heard of Zelda, but okay, whatever. And then that quickly spiraled into me becoming a pretty big fan.
Nice. I love that. That's awesome.
Last one. Zelda for... Oh, sorry, I didn't read your name. That was Glory to Koga 11.
That makes a lot of sense.
Makes a lot of sense. All right. So the last one is from Zelda for Life 08. Always amazing. This podcast is awesome. I found this podcast a few years back and listened to the first 3 seasons and got lost in some other podcasts for a while. Due to the recent release of Tears of the Kingdom, I picked up where I left off and have caught up very recently, and I'm anticipating the continuation of Season 6. The new voices all over are so much fun to keep listening to, keeping the best source for fans for this amazing series in Green Heart.
Oh, that's
thank
so
you
sweet.
so much.
I love that. Yeah.
All of the fans are so, so sweet. So thank you guys. As always, post your comments everywhere. Maybe you might get into listener feedback, but even if you don't, we try to read them all, and it really does mean a lot. So, moving on, the reason that it is me and Al here today and David is nowhere to be seen is because David hasn't played too much of Tears of the Kingdom, and that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Yes.
More specifically, we're going to be talking about the champions. What have they been up to? What's going on with them? And if you have played a bit of Tears, you know that there is a new champion that has joined the ranks.
Mm-hmm.
So, Al, do you have any beginning thoughts kind of about the new champions?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of love the evolution of the quote unquote champions from Breath of the Wild to Tears, because we started with one set and then we kind of had an adventure with the new set in Breath of the Wild, and then they kind of move over to Tears and they're the champions, but they're also sages now. So it's there's an evolution to them, not just character growth, which I'm sure we'll talk about. So, and I just think that's really cool. And I'm actually kind of excited because I don't think Andy and I have much talked about them on our own show.
Oh,
so
really?
I'm excited to kind of get some feelings out about these guys.
Yeah, no, I am super excited. So I guess the best way is probably just to start with one and then go down the list.
Mm-hmm.
So personally, I think we should start with Tulin.
Okay, fair enough.
Because when you start Tears of the Kingdom, they encourage you to go to the Rito first.
Exactly.
So I think Tulin is a great place to start. So if you've played Breath of the Wild, there's Teba is normally who you go to, the Rito champion. But in Tears of the Kingdom, you go there. Teba is now the chief. He can't really leave and do that anymore. So instead, Teba becomes your champion, who is his son, which I didn't realize he was in Breath of the Wild, to tell you the truth.
Oh, Tulin? Yeah. So, I mean, it was kind of funny when we saw the trailer where they revealed Tulin.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us were like, who is this kid?
Yeah.
But then when I was looking at him closely, because I remembered him I do remember him briefly in Breath of the Wild, but I remember him from Age of Calamity. And so I was like, that's Teba's son. What's Teba's son doing with Link?
Yeah.
What's going on with that? So yeah, it was kind of I was taken aback at first by it. So yeah.
Yeah, it was really interesting to see how different his character was from Teba.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, Teba was always more stoic, more reserved. Whereas Tulin, when you first meet him, his whole thing is Teba's my son won't stop trying to fly out and stop this stuff. Can you just find him and bring him back, please? Because he keeps getting into trouble. Which I think was just such a cute little, change of pace. I don't want to say I didn't like Teba, but I certainly didn't latch onto him as much as the other ones.
Okay, that's fair.
And maybe it's just because I normally don't latch onto the Rito characters as much personally. I don't know why. It's just normally not what I normally gravitate to. But Tulin, I have to say, is probably my favorite sage.
Okay. I would agree. Power-wise, I would say Tulin is my favorite. Character-wise, I'll talk about another. But when it came to Teba, I was definitely very confused and wondered why Nintendo went this route where Teba isn't involved like the other ones are. So obviously in Breath of the Wild you connect with Revali. I actually really like Revali. I know that he's not the best character and he's kind of a jerk, but I actually really liked him. And then Teba's kind of a continuation, though much nicer and much more humble about his abilities and whatnot. And I felt like I connected to him. I actually really liked him. So when it came to Tears, I was like, why isn't Teba? I understand he has responsibilities, but so do the other sages.
Yeah, I was going to say, that really did throw me off. I love Tulin. I like the route that they did.
Yes.
But I wonder why Nintendo decided to go that route.
Yeah, it's kind of odd. Well, I can't say that because when we talk about the other sages, some of them are pretty big too. But when, I thought for a second, maybe it's because he's bigger and you need somebody smaller like Tulin to kind of help you with this, getting up to the sky, but
Sidon's huge.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that too. I was like, Sidon, Minoru, and are pretty big too. So I don't know.
I don't know if maybe the feedback with him wasn't what they wanted, but I even saw, because I guess I didn't see as much for him, but I also didn't see too much about Yunobo either, to tell you the truth, in the fandom. So I don't know.
Oh, well, we got feels about Yunobo from Breath of the Wild, but let's just say they evolved, so I'm sure we'll get there.
Yeah, so, yeah, Tulin has been great, though. I think his ability is amazing.
Yes. I think his little story is pretty good. He has some, like, growth. He knows he's talented.
Yeah.
He's, like, got it in his head, like, yeah, I'm going to be the most awesome.
I mean, he's the gifted kid.
Yeah, and he's like, everybody's just holding me back, but then he kind of realizes, you know what, I do need teamwork. I do need to work with people, or else I'm going to get in trouble. And so I think that's good little character growth for him. And I also just love having him around. Like,
yeah. I just think he's super cute. And I think it also helps that I'm a really big fan of his voice actress.
Yes.
Because I was playing the game and had the cutscene with him, and I was like, I know her.
Yeah.
I love anime, so I've heard her in a lot of stuff.
Nice. She also is the voice of Hestu.
She is. Now you mention it. Yeah, she is.
Yeah, so for Age and for Tears, she's the voice of Hestu, which has this like really, really high pitched, funky little voice. But I couldn't not hear that with Tulin. But yeah, no, I adore Tulin. I adore his little story. He clearly had some growth between Breath of the Wild and Tears, because you barely remember him from Breath of the Wild. And he definitely had a part in Age of Calamity, but again, if some people miss that, I'm sure some people miss that game, so you wouldn't know Tulin until Tears, and I think he really grows on you.
Yeah, exactly. So moving on to the next one, I personally did Sidon next.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the route you took.
I kind of got the impression that the game wanted me to go to Goron next, so I did Goron second, but we could talk about Sidon.
Okay, we'll talk about Sidon and then we'll go on to Goron.
Okay.
So Sidon in this game is very different, in my personal opinion. I'll also, this might just because I hopped on the bandwagon of like, oh, Sidon, oh my gosh. But I was kind of like that. And I will admit, when I first met Yunobo?
Yona.
Yona, thank you.
Yes.
When I first met Yona, I was a little taken aback.
Yes.
That being said, though, she is a very sweet character. She doesn't deserve a lot of the hate she gets.
Yeah, poor Yona.
Poor Yona. What did you think when you first reunited with Sidon?
Okay, so I feel like I have to have my feelings from Breath of the Wild in play. Like, I thought Sidon was fine. I didn't really understand the hype because all I could think is, like, he's a fish.
Yeah, no, it's completely fair.
And I also, this might just be me personally, but he just, like, is so overly affectionate, and I call him the love bomber.
No,
Zelda.
he is.
And I kind of get to the point where I'm like, you know what? Back off. Like,
yeah, chill out, bro.
yeah, it's like, thank you. I know I'm great. I appreciate you telling me that, but maybe, like, dial it down a notch or two. And I don't know if that's just me being mean, because, like, he's obviously generally a really sweet person, really cares about his people, really cared about his sister. And so I respect that. So when it came to...
He's a lot. He's just a lot.
He is. So when it came to Tears, I wasn't like... I know a lot of people were like, yes, let's go find Sidon immediately.
Oh,
you know? And I wasn't about that. But, like, when I found him, I thought his power, what he was doing was really cool for, like, their phenomena that was happening with the sledge. I thought what he was doing was really cool. And he, like, his getup has, like,
oh my gosh,
gotten
so
bigger
much
and
cooler.
floofier. But again, he was like very like, oh my God, my best friend, there you are. And I love you. And I was like, okay, bro.
No, what got me was when he talked to Yona, clearly Sidon said something to her. Because at first she said like, oh, you're Link, I mean Sidon's best friend.
Yeah.
So it's like, what did he say to her? Was she just like, oh, you know, like, that swordsman Link, you mean my best friend?
Yeah.
You have to call him my best friend.
You know, have you seen those memes online where it's like, my boyfriend's best friend probably has a stronger relationship than I do with my own boyfriend?
Yeah.
That's probably Yona.
I had also seen the one where it's like Yona being like, oh, this is my fiance Sidon, and this is Sidon's boyfriend Link.
Yes, like Parks and Rec. I love it.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I mean, I didn't buy into the whole shipping them, but like I understood, I get it, I respect it. I also thought it was like weird when you get there and like the statue of Mipha's gone and it's a statue.
It's just like right inside.
I'm like, why you gotta do Mipha dirty like
I know,
that?
and they like put her. They're like, oh, she's still here on the high point. It's like, yeah, she's there when no one is gonna see her.
I respect that they gave her this really cool like court and the music's so pretty and the area is so pretty. So like it's cool for Mipha, but at first I didn't know that, so I was like, wow, they're doing Mipha dirty so that they can have the boyfriend.
And it's like
there.
a whole thing when you like get there. They're like, we need help cleaning off this statue. You know, Sidon's probably like freaking out about it.
He's like, there's sludge all over my statue of my best friend. There was a struggle, though, I think, that I had, because when you go on these quests and this journey with the sages, the champions, and Tears of the Kingdom, you start to feel connected to them in their story. Like with Tulin, we talked about how you kind of help him see that he needs help, and he doesn't need to just go, in full Nelly doing whatever he thinks he can do and get himself into trouble. And as we'll talk about with the others, they also are like, yeah, Link, come help me. But there was a couple moments where Sidon's like, let's split up. And like, and I was like, that kind of took away from my connection to Sidon. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, I kind of wanted to do this with you.
Yeah, I think they relied a bit too much on the fact that he was so popular from Breath of the Wild that they didn't give as much time to him. Mm-hmm. And that's because they're like, oh, they'll still like him. Mm-hmm. Which is true. I still like Sidon. But yeah, I agree. It feels like we were a lot more separated from him in this game.
Yes, and yeah, I think that might have hurt my relationship with him a little bit. And it's also not just like he was saying, let's split up, but he was also saying, I have to stand here and purify the water. Will you go do this? When with the others, you do that part of the quest line with them. Yeah, like you go to find the answers with them, and you didn't with Sidon. And I thought that was a really weird choice.
Yeah, because, I mean, there were other... They couldn't even play it as like, oh, he's the only one that can purify. Because there's other ones that were purifying it too. So he could have come with. And I feel like his story wasn't as impactful as some of the other ones too. Because yes, he was like trying to clear it up for the Zora. And that's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking more like the spiritual journey, I guess, with him. Whereas we were just talking like Tulin was like trying to come to terms. He's like a gifted kid, but he needs to like chill out kind of.
Yeah.
Sidon didn't really have any of that. I mean, he was like gonna be king, but he didn't even really know that.
Yeah, I would say his story is that he needed to let go of his fear of something happening to his loved ones. Yona was kind of like, you need to let that go. Like, Link and I are gonna be fine, which is great, but then I didn't get the connection in between that to really understand he was afraid in the first place.
Yeah. That's, when she said that, I was like,
oh, I didn't worry.
Because also his whole character is he's like this overconfident. Mm-hmm. And so they didn't really show him not being confident about it. He was just confident the whole time, and then they were like, oh, you don't have to be scared. It's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I didn't get any of that. So I think it was kind of weird that Nintendo didn't let us connect on that level. And I think maybe that's why I usually am just like, you're too over affectionate, and maybe I just don't have the connection with you that I should.
No, I agree, because so I guess kind of spoilers. This is all kind of spoilers, so. At the end of Sidon's little quest line, he becomes king, and then he instantly asks Mipha to be his queen. Or Mipha, oh my god. Instantly asks Yona to be his queen. Mm-hmm. And that caught me really off guard. I don't know if that was just a me thing.
Wait, and it's just, I guess the way he started talking to her all of a sudden, he's like, my darling, my love. And it's like,
that's when he started talking like that. I'm like, you have not talked to her like that this entire game. Mm-hmm. Like, you've barely acknowledged her existence. It feels
for like a second. Like, well, he talks about her and is like, yeah, we're childhood friends. She was friends with Mipha, and like, I've known her for a long time. But you kind of got this feeling that he was like hesitant, and maybe that was the fear. But it wasn't emulated properly.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the writing around him could have been a little bit clearer. Mm-hmm. But that being said, Sidon's a fan favorite. He's always going to be a fan favorite.
That's true.
That's all right.
How did you feel about his abilities, though?
It wasn't really what I was hoping, to tell you the truth. I mean, I would say out of everyone, I use his ability the least.
Yeah. I feel so bad. There's moments where, so obviously once you completed the quest with the sages, they join you for your journey, and I keep tooling around because he's very useful. I literally never used Sidon, so I put him away.
Yeah.
I felt bad. And there was also like some really cool moments where the characters show up with you on your journey, like in person, mm-hmm. and like Sidon would always have this like one line like, Link, I'm here for you, and I'm over here like, shut up, Sidon.
Leave me alone.
And I felt
Go back
so
to your
bad.
wife, bro.
My brother, he was watching me play a lot, and he's like, you're really mean to him. I'm like, I'm not trying, I'm so sorry.
All right, I guess now we should go on to the Gorons.
Okay.
So you mentioned that you had a different connection with Yunobo with Breath of the Wild.
I'm actually curious about what you felt about Yunobo with Breath of the Wild, because you said there's not a lot of like feedback for him, but I thought that there was like a lot of Yunobo is just a giant weenie.
I mean, yeah. No, absolutely. I meant more like from the fandom side of things, there wasn't much fan art done for him.
Oh, yes.
Or much
yeah.
like that kind of stuff.
That makes sense. I understand that. But yeah, it was, I mean, he's a nice guy. He was very sweet, but there was like the quest to get him up to the divine beast was just a slog. And then he just like is afraid, but he's like doing it. So I'm like, good, okay, he's got courage. He can fight through his fear. But like, and then he's got this really like high voice, and like if you listen to him in Japanese, it's so much worse. It's just like a literal like 3-year-old child screaming, and there just wasn't a lot for Yunobo. So when I was going to the Goron region, I was expecting to like find Yunobo and be like, I'm not gonna like it this much. Yeah. I'm not gonna be impressed, but I'll tell you what, I was impressed.
Yeah, I was the exact same way. His quest line was kind of annoying in Breath of the Wild, to tell the truth. I mean, I still enjoyed it, but it was a little much. And him as a character, I didn't have anything against Yunobo. I just didn't feel that kind of connection because he didn't really connect much with Link. I feel a lot of it was just him being scared with himself, which it's fine. But then moving on, I saved Yunobo for last because he was kind of my least favorite. Okay. So I didn't really go to him first. And as of recording this, I had just finished his questline yesterday in prep for this. And when I first saw him, I had like a 180 moment where I was like, are you still Yunobo? And I know it goes into like, you find out, it's the mask that's controlling him. But I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, I was really, and it's kind of funny that when they were marketing Tears, Yunobo was nowhere to be seen in the trailers. And everybody's like, where's Yunobo? What's going on with him? And there's like a split second where you could see his weapon in the trailer, but you don't see him. So you're like, is he also being replaced like Teba was replaced? So when he shows up in Tears, you kind of understand why he wasn't marketed, because something's clearly going on with him. It was just kind of like this 180 spin where all of a sudden he is this self-righteous, like let me slave all my people to work to find this marbled rock jerk. And I was like, no, something's off. This is not, there's no way he turned into like this greedy jerk.
Yeah, I was like, okay, something has to be up, because there's no way anyone would want him as their friend if he is like this.
I agree. So yeah, when you kind of follow his quest line, Andy and I talked about this on our show a little bit, where we kind of wished the part where he's the jerk lasted a bit longer.
Yeah, me too.
Because you clear it pretty quickly, where you break the mask, you fight him, break the mask, and he's like, oh, I'm back to normal, and it's like, oh, that was really fast. I was kind of hoping like the entirety of his quest line before you go to do the dungeon would be more of that.
Yeah, that would have been cool. I also feel like it was really cool getting to fight him. But I wish the fight was a little bit longer, not just like 3 hits.
Yeah.
Which I get. They're like, you don't want to hurt your friend, but also like
he's acting like Loon. So.
I was gonna say it would be really cool to fight him. But yeah, once it broke, it was nice to see that he kept his development from Breath of the Wild.
Yes, like he definitely had more confidence, more courage. He was ready to go, and that's why I was impressed. I was like, oh, Yunobo's done some growing. He's got his own business off the ground. He's helping his people, and he's really taking on the role of the champion of his people, and I really liked that. Yeah. That was really cool.
No.
So I was very impressed compared to Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, exactly. No, he's certainly grown up a lot.
Yeah.
We're going to head to a quick break, and then when we come back, let's move on to Richu.
Yes, I love Richu. I can't wait.
Hey, this is TC.
And this is Jim from The Studio Demands It,
a bi-weekly screenwriting podcast where every episode we conceptualize and craft an entire screenplay based on the demands of one of our listeners acting as a studio.
From hypothetical sequels of popular franchises
to reboots or reimaginings of films that deserve a fresh chance.
To hypothetical films that simply must be brought into existence.
Join the creative process over at studiodemandsit.com. Hope to see you there. Well, I can't see us.
Hope to hear them there?
Hope to hear us there.
Yep.
Hello there, listeners. David here. You know, the whole team at Another Zelda Podcast appreciates every bit of support our listeners give. And if you'd like to enjoy some extra content, we invite you to consider becoming a patron through our Patreon page. Sword members get a thank you on our website, as well as monthly digital wallpapers for all your devices, and the opportunity to participate in an annual meetup on Discord with the AZP team. White Sword members will get everything the Sword tier gets, and also they'll get access to episodes a week early, as well as bonus episodes that we record specifically for Patreon. A new thing we're doing is monthly Discord meetups, where we'll play trivia and hang out with you as well. Lastly, and this is our most popular tier, actually, the Magical Sword level, which includes, of course, everything from the previous 2 levels, but also gives supporters access to behind-the-scenes videos that we produce and behind-the-scenes extended video versions of every episode. Thank you so much for your time. Let's get back to the show. And if you're already on Patreon, we are so grateful that you're helping us keep Another Zelda Podcast vibrant.
And we are back with Al. Now, Al, we are moving on to Riju.
Yes.
First off, from Breath of the Wild, what were your thoughts on Riju?
I thought, I really, I have a really, soft spot for Riju because she was, a very young chief, and she didn't have, all the confidence in the world, but she was ready to put it all on the line to help her people and to be like, I can do this job. And she was self-doubting, she had some self-doubt and wasn't quite sure if she could, but she's like, I'm willing to try, at least. And you help her get the Thunder Helm, and she puts it on. It's a little too big for her, so she's got some growing to do. She helps you. She and Patricia, her devoted sand seal, help you, take down Naboris, and it's awesome to see what she's willing to do for her people, even though she doesn't quite have the confidence, thinking that she can lead her people or take care of her people. So I felt a lot of love for her, a lot of sympathy, I know you'll get there someday.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's definitely very realized in Tears.
Yeah, because I think in Breath of the Wild, I could be wrong, but I think she's 14,
yeah,
15.
Very young.
Yeah, she's very, very young. And when you first meet her, obviously she looks very young, but she carries herself as someone who's older because she has to.
Exactly.
And I feel like when you kind of get to meet her and know her more through Breath of the Wild, you realize oh, she is a kid, but she's just doing her best. And like you said, it's really fully realized in Tears of the Kingdom. For me, I had first met the Gerudo people through Breath of the Wild, so I had no clue who they were as a people, and I fell in love with them because I thought it was so cool. This female warrior race that they're all kind of in it together, and I feel like Riju carries those ideals very heavily onto Tears. So when you first meet her in Tears, you get to go up to her, which she has an amazing new haircut.
I love it.
I love her so much.
I wondered about that. Her and Zelda both cut their hair, and I was kind of hoping for maybe a little
they did it together.
Or something where they were we did it because we're getting older and have more experience, and this is the next journey of our lives, or something like that. But I love that they both had cut their hair.
Yeah, I didn't even think of it like that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you meet her, and she's at this practice range, which I thought was kind of funny because she's trying to get her lightning snap that Urbosa does, and she cannot hit the target to save her life.
Yeah.
She just keeps trying. It's not working. But I do want to say, talking about the Thunder Helm, saying she had more growing to do, I believe, if I remember correctly, that the helm fits her now when you meet her.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Does she wear it? I can't remember. I don't remember ever seeing it in Tears. I know I saw it with the Yiga. They had a replica now.
Oh, maybe I'm just thinking of the replica then.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but she's definitely grown. I think she's taller than Link now.
Oh, she is.
Yeah, Link is just a small boy, but
yeah, I love the choice that they made. This is kind of off topic, but I love the choice that they made where Link is kind of just smaller than everyone around him.
Yeah, I do. I like that too, especially just everybody else around him. Most Hylians.
Yeah, I was gonna say because everyone's oh well, it's because they're taller than Hylians, but then most Hylians tower him too.
Yeah,
so.
I think it just helps him be more agile and stuff, and helps with his ability to be such a just awesome knight. So yeah, I agree.
But yeah, so you as Link kind of have to help Riju direct her lightning and kind of work alongside her with that. I had a really hard time with this region just because of the map being completely gone because of the sandstorms.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the best moments was when you got to defend the town from the Glibdos.
Yes. So I would say that definitely when you meet Riju, like, yeah, she's still lacking a little confidence, but not in herself. It was more her ability that she was trying to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I really need to protect my people. We're under attack from Gibdos, whatnot. I need to be able to master this ability. And it's similar to, I don't know if you've done this yet, but it's similar to how Rivali is when he's teaching himself Rivali's Gale. He's like, I need to master this. And it's a kind of a similar vibe. But she's like completely grown as a leader, and you like see her and you help her defend the town from the Gibdos. And it's just like, you see her take charge, you see her give out commands, and it's very Age of Calamity like when you're helping defend the town, and she's like talking to you like, hey, there's Gibdos on the west side, there's Gibdos on the north side, there's Gibdos attacking me. Like,
no, it feels very inspired from Age of Calamity.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were kind of setting up for this moment,
Mm-hmm.
which was why it was so cool when you as Link got to be like, okay, where do you want to set up this garrison? Where do you want to set up this one? So you have to watch this gate then. I'll have to make sure Riju's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, she's over there just zapping him with lightning.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of her ability?
I really like her ability. I just I struggle with it because like when she's a sage like and is following you around, she really like jumps into battle, and I'm like, no, Riju, come back. I need you to zap some people. But I like Urbosa's Fury better from Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
And I think that a common theme is people like Breath of the Wild abilities more than Tears of the Kingdom abilities. But I really like what she can do in that you can aim her attacks so specifically.
Yeah.
It's just that I gotta catch her. You know?
No, I agree with that. When I played, sorry, I lost my train of thought.
You can aim like directly with her power and stuff. Does that help?
Yes, thank you. So in playing Breath of the Wild, I have always been someone that uses my melee attacks a bit more. So with that, I was a little like kind of thrown off about Riju having the arrows, but it does help a lot, especially with the Gibdos, where you have to like kind of aim at their nests to take them out. I wish it was a little bit more area of attack, and just because a lot of times you have to like wait for it to reload and then get the next one, and then wait for it to reload, get the next one. And I completely agree with you. She is so slippery. You can never catch her.
Yeah, she's like, all right, let's go. And she's like attacking a guy over here. And I'm like, no. I need you back over here so I can use your attack. I think this is one of those things where if it was a different button and you didn't have to be right next to them, because oftentimes the sages get in your way too, and you're like trying to pick up an item, but Yonobo's rolling over them and setting them on fire because it's the same button. So,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, like I love, and I also, she's my favorite sage as a character because I don't know if you noticed this, but when you like finish the dungeon with them and they have the same cutscene over and over and over again, it's just different. She has like a slightly different verbiage than the others do. They're like, I'm gonna stand by your side and blah blah blah. And Riju is like, Ganondorf has put a bad
name
mark
on the Gerudo
on
people,
Gerudo, and she's like, I'm ready to take him down, and I will stand by your side and do it. And she's like, so, like, she's just takes on this very regal, confident, and she's like, and it's gonna be fun. And I'm like, yes!
I love her. No, I love how I know we've said this, but I love how much she cares about her people.
Exactly.
And like the fighting fire that she always has, even though she's technically the sage of electricity or lightning or whatever, but she has fire in her, and I love that.
Exactly. I love Riju.
Okay, so we've obviously just talked about Riju. We've talked about Yunobo, Sidon, Tulin, little guy. But there's a secret fifth sage that you find, and she's pretty cool, I have to say.
I agree. My question to you, though, is, and this is something that I've talked about on my show, too, a lot, because I have very strong feelings about it. Did you find her when you were supposed to find her, or did you find her out of order?
I found her out of order.
Okay. How did that make you feel any kind of way?
I was just really caught off guard, to tell you the truth. Because, leading into this, it's like, we had 4 champions, we're going to have 4 sages.
Right.
And there's 4 people on the surface. Okay, perfect, great.
Right.
So for me, I know you are a big completionist. I'm also a big completionist. So I had, like, the little map pulled up. I was going all around the depths, getting all the light routes and everything. I got to a place, and it had the voice of like, find me the 4 parts to build. I was like, this is weird.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I don't figure out where this goes. So first off, what did you think of her like little fetch me my body parts quest?
I thought it was cool. Like it for me, it reminded me much of the final Divine Beast in the Breath of the Wild DLC, because it has 4 very distinct regions of puzzles, and then there's a central area. So it kind of reminded me of that, which I love that dungeon. So I love this. I thought it was really fun. I thought the puzzles were really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I just was so hesitant the whole time because I'm like, am I in a dungeon? Like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
And I didn't want to, if it was a dungeon, I was going to be like, I don't want to be here. But I somehow convinced myself that I wasn't in a dungeon because it didn't say I was in a dungeon.
Yeah.
So I the way I discovered it was actually through the sky. It's interesting that you discovered it in the depths because I discovered it in the sky. I was stubborn and went through the storm in Farron region to get to the Dragonhead Isles because it's really hard to get through there. But I saw the shrine and I was like, I'm going for it, and I did. And then it starts the way for you to get down into the depths to get to Minoru. And so I was like, oh, okay, this is odd. What am I doing? What is this? And so I really liked it, but I feel like because I did it out of order and they didn't, I really wish the game
made you do that one in order.
Yeah. I think because I did it out of order, it really messed things up for me as far as, my connection to the game, my connection to Minoru, my enjoyment of that dungeon, because it is one, and it's just, it just wasn't part of what I was trying to do in the game, and came out of order, and it just really messed me up. I did not like it.
No, I completely agree, because I think I might have seen Minoru in 1 tier memory,
Right.
So I kind of knew who she was, but not really. So when I found her and she went on this long spiel of yes, I'll be by your side and I've been waiting for you and this body, I'm like, who are you?
Right.
But no, I completely agree. I think she's really cool. I think what she can do is cool.
Yes.
I would have liked if they made that one a little bit more linear. I did like the 4 little fetch quest puzzles. I thought they were cool. I think how they set them up was cool. Where the puzzles were all right. I kind of wish they were a little bit harder personally.
Okay.
But I did like that when you get to the end of one, they always have something there to help you get the device back.
Yes.
So you don't have to walk the long way.
Yeah.
They had either the paraglider or what is it called?
The wings? I think they're called
glider?
wings. Yeah.
Yeah. They had one of those or maybe a mine cart or whatever. So I think I've noticed a lot with this game, Nintendo being really smart with having a way to easily travel back during these kind of quests.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah, that's cool. I didn't really think about that until you brought it up, so that's cool. I liked the puzzles. I thought they were, I think it just felt like a different kind of dungeon than the rest of the dungeons we've been having so far. But another part that really disconnected it for me was you got the construct factory, and then she's like, we gotta go get my tier. It's over in the spirit temple. And then you get there, and you're like, okay, maybe that's gonna be my dungeon. No.
Yeah. No, it felt like you just kept waiting for her, especially because you bring up a good point with she is a sage. All the sages had a dungeon, and she didn't get one.
It's just the construct factory is her dungeon, but it doesn't it didn't have the same build up to that dungeon as the others did because it was out of order. There is a build up to it, a proper one, and I did do the proper quests for it after the fact.
I didn't even know that, to tell you the truth. I thought this was, I figured you would have to find her eventually, but I didn't. I thought it was just going to be a passing, oh, we found this in the depths, go find it.
I feel like that's even worse that you didn't even get those quests to set it up because you found it and you're like, okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a bummer. I didn't even know
so
there were
I feel
some.
because I know you haven't finished the game yet, but there is going to be a point where you're going to get those and you're going to be like, I already did it.
Oh.
Yeah. So I don't think that Nintendo really thought that through. And I don't know if Andy definitely feels the same, and I know a few people here at the marathon that we've been talking to feels the same, but I don't know if that's a really relatively similar feeling for every Zelda player out there. They're probably fine with it, but I did not like the decision to you can do it whenever.
Yeah, I feel like it's such a missed opportunity. Just
because it's really cool.
It is really cool.
Like,
yeah.
I feel bad for bagging on it because it's actually really awesome. It's just that it felt so disconnected and weird to me. And then, of course, we're trying to talk about the Sage, but, like, I didn't feel a lot of connection to Minoru because of all that nonsense. So...
Yeah, I mean, and really, because most of what you find out about Minoru is through the memories.
Right.
She doesn't really have any connection with you as the player or Link, just because you guys don't really interact other than you get her the body parts, you fight Koga, and then kind of just like, all right, we're working together.
yeah, kind of. And, like, also, when I was talking about you get the same cutscene after every dungeon you battle, which I thought was really annoying. But you get a completely, I mean, it's the same, but completely, like, way more elaborate with her.
Yeah.
So if you do that out of order, you kind of would want that closer to the end of the game because it really explains a lot of stuff. Versus,
it really
like,
does.
If you go, if you do it soon and then, like, you went to Yunobo next probably, and then you're like, oh, this is the same. Like,
I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Whereas, like, Minoru's is like, oh, wow, this was really exciting. Maybe another Sage will have a different one. No, they don't.
Yeah, because she has, like, she basically
like
explains most of the
scenes.
game.
Yeah.
She explains the whole history of everything and what happens with Zelda and everything. And it's like, if I didn't find certain tiers before this, I would be really confused.
I think that's the only, well, I shouldn't say only, but that's one of the biggest consequences of Nintendo's idea of an open world game. That I like that you can go do whatever you want, whenever you want, but games have done that while still having linearity to their story. Yeah. So that's a big thing for me, and in Tears I talk about it a lot.
No, I agree wholeheartedly. But talking about Minoru, so we keep talking about getting the fetch quest to kind of like bring her body parts. So Minoru is in this like giant Zonai mecha, I guess her spirit is.
Yeah.
And you as Link can kind of control her and like merge her parts together. Which I went into thinking was super cool. I don't know how you felt about
No, I thought that was awesome. I was like, I just built a robot. This is so cool.
Yeah, but I mean, I definitely love that Link kind of ride on her back and kind of move her around. And I like that. So you were kind of talking to go get her like Sage spirit. You had to kind of like ride her there. And I think it's really smart how they did it where, you know, she mentions like you can like kind of meld stuff to her hands or her back, but they have different like sections of different things that you can kind of try and see what happens. Which for the longest time I didn't realize if you put a fan on her back she goes faster.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, really good to know.
Yeah.
I wish they would have said something about that because the whole time I ended up just jumping off and like walking, letting her catch up because I'm like, dude, you're so slow.
And there's a couple things in Tears where I'm like, I wish somebody would have said something.
Yeah. I will say my one gripe with Minoru is, which also you could just say like, this is on me, but I attached a like electric shock machine thing to one of her hands, and whenever I'm fighting with her, she shocks the enemy and then shocks me too. So I drop all my stuff.
Oh,
and I'm like, are you kidding me?
Okay, maybe just make it a note on your own playlist. Like, okay, don't add electric things.
No electric, no fire.
I love it. Yeah, I think she's really cool to control and that you can add stuff to her. But admittedly, it was very similar with Sidon where I was like, you're very bulky and in my way, so you're going to go away too.
Yeah, she's very bulky, which is kind of a shame because, I mean, a lot of the other ones are more tight and nimble, not Sidon. Sidon's huge.
Yeah.
But, you know, it is what it is. I also just really like Minoru's design. We talked a little bit about this on the episode we did with you guys on your channel podcast, whatever you want to call it, about how we kind of wish there was a bit more about not only Minoru but Rauru.
Yeah,
and
the
like
Zonai.
The Zonai in general, because we were saying like they say they're kind of the last two, but they don't really give us more than that.
Yes. Yeah, they say they're the last two in Hyrule. So does that mean there were more in Hyrule? Does that mean they went back up to the sky? Does that mean they died off? Like, what does that mean? Yeah, and I don't know. I'm very curious about Minoru because Rauru, he had that connection with, I believe her name is Sophie. I'm so bad with names. Sonia, thank you. Yeah. Sonia. He has that connection with Sonia because, you know, they fell in love, they got married, whatever. And Minoru, I believe, is Rauru's sister, isn't she?
So I kind of get why she came down, but she was very, very devoted to everything, which I think is very cool.
Mm-hmm.
I just wish there was a bit more story behind her.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that about like Sonya too, and like Rauru, and like a lot of that's another kind of like consequence to having this open world game where they have these story moments, but they're really kind of like they did better in Tears than they did in Breath of the Wild, but you're like looking for that oomph to a character, like some growth, and like I'm sure you're going to be experiencing this as you play Skyward Sword, but like there's lots of really big character development in games like that, whereas this, it's like I feel like I only get the surface of a lot of these characters. Same with the champions and the sages. So
yeah, I feel like one of their downfalls is because they're making it so open world without any kind of linearity, for the most part at least. They make it so a lot of these character moments and cutscenes and things you don't have to experience for the game, which on one hand is good if you're like not really into it for that.
Yeah.
But for story reasons, therefore, like none of these can have big impact because otherwise everyone else is going to be confused and not like the game if they don't find it.
Right. Yeah, I feel like the only big impacts that you really get are for Zelda.
Yeah. I will say, if I may talk about Zelda for like this last like
technically she's a sage.
I was gonna say technically she's a sage, so it would be kind of cool to talk about her for a little bit. So for anyone who hasn't made it that far, Zelda is technically the Sage of Time.
Yes.
Which I think is brilliant.
Yes.
I think it's so cool. I like seeing Zelda in like bigger roles. So I was so shocked about the time travel element first off about this game.
Okay, that's fair.
No, I was not expecting Zelda to kind of get thrown back in time.
Okay.
I was not expecting her to stay thrown back in time. But you know, I kind of like the choice they made. It was a gutsy move. I like that they made it.
I like that it wasn't like she was just kind of captured. Well, she wasn't captured in Breath of the Wild, but like just there, but not there.
Yeah.
I mean, she was, but in this game, but I like, there's a reason for it.
There's a reason for it, and you can see what she was up to during that time.
Exactly. Like she had a master plan by the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this game, I mean, we all knew that she was really smart from Breath of the Wild with her research and everything. I think this game really came to show like how brilliant Zelda is as a person.
Yes. Yeah. How calculating, and like I think that Sonya and especially Rauru help her. Like,
oh, definitely.
There's a speech that Rauru gives her is like, I know that I may fail tomorrow, but there's a reason that you're here. And the future that you came from is from a past where you weren't here. So you came here for a reason. I trust that you'll figure it out. And he's kind of like putting every destiny in her hands instead of his own. He's like, I'm going to give you the tools to help you. Like, I'll do what I can, but I know it's going to be up to you and Link. And that's when it clicks for her. And she's like, I know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also like the cutscene of her and Minoru talking about the idea of her consuming the dragon scale.
Draconification.
Draconification.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Because obviously Minoru was very against this, saying like, you're not going to be able to turn back. Like, what's going to happen? And I like how bold Zelda has just been, and how she's just like, you know what? I have my idea. I have my plan. I'm going through with it. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Like, there's no other way around this. Which kind of adds to this, like, devastating moment when you do get the Master Sword. And it's just stuck there, and she's so sad, and I can't.
Yeah, I told a lot of people this, but when I finally figured out what the like dragon is and what happened, I would go visit her a lot. Like, whenever I'd see her, I would fly up and like I'd sit on her, and I'd be like, okay, so I just helped the Gorons, and like I found this really cool piece of armor, just kind of telling her what I'm doing, so she knows. Like, of course, this is a video game, but like,
but no, I completely agree with
I'm
that.
like, I just want you to know what I'm up to, because you've been like flying up here for thousands and thousands of years, and I just want you to know I'm doing my job like you want me to. Because I was just like, oof, when she ate the secret stone, and I was like, oh, God, like I was gutted. So
yeah, that was a huge moment. And then I don't know, to me, seeing her like turn into the dragon, it looked so painful.
It did look very painful. And like I should add that, like, for me, the Zelda from this era grew on me, because in Breath of the Wild, I didn't quite get her at first.
Yeah.
I was a little, like, annoyed with her.
Mhm.
Not because she was, like, snippy with Link or anything, but because she, like, I felt like she was, have you ever seen Spider-Man 2?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I thought she was being, like, Tobey Maguire's Peter, when he, like, didn't want to be Spider-Man anymore, it suppressed his powers.
Mhm.
And he was, like, doubting himself and all that kind of stuff. And he
Yeah.
wanted to just live his life. I kind of thought that was what was going on with her. Like, she
Mhm.
was suppressing her own powers because she just wanted to do research. And she was tired of her father, like, being so demanding and all that kind of stuff. But then Age of Calamity came out, and there was a different kind of telling of that relationship. And I kind of understood her more, that she was researching because she couldn't activate her powers. And she's like, I have to find something to do to help, because I can't.
Yeah, I think Age of Calamity coming out really helped her character.
Yes, I agree. And then to Tears, she grew even more, and you see how she's been helping Hyrule, and then eventually how she helps Link too. So I just want to say that my experience with her has grown as she has grown. So.
Absolutely. No, I'm the same way. I mean, I thought she was fine in Breath of the Wild, but I did come from it from a point of like, but he's Link. Like, you can't be mean to him. So I did kind of come from it from that point. So I didn't dislike her, but I also was kind of I kind of got a little upset with her snippiness at times. Mm-hmm. And then Age of Calamity came out, and I was like, wow, she's really cool. And then Tears of the Kingdom came out, and I was like, she's really cool.
Yeah, there was just some story elements that I didn't get to her at first. But the more you replay Breath of the Wild, the more you kind of see it. And it makes total sense. So I apologize to Zelda for my first impression of her.
No, I do as well. I get where she comes from, and I get the frustration that she must have been feeling.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's fantastic. I haven't finished the game as of doing this episode. I'm like 135 hours in. I'm just kind of collecting everything before ending. And I'm nervous because obviously you know what happens, but for my nerves, I'm nervous because she is this dragon that's been floating around for like 3,000 years or whatever. Mm-hmm. And on one hand, I'm like, okay, she might just never change back, which that's devastating. And I really want her to change back because her and Link are so sweet. And on the other hand, though, I'm like, if she does change back, she's not going to be the same because she's been alive for so long.
Yeah.
So, but I guess you could say the same thing with her being alive for like 100 years.
I just thought of that.
Yeah, I guess you could say the same thing. But even then, I'm just like, she has to, like, something had to have affected her.
I mean, poor Zelda. She's gone through some stuff.
Yeah, I don't. This might be very niche. Have you seen Rick and Morty at all?
I haven't watched any Rick and Morty.
Okay, well, there's an episode where Morty's, like, the girl that he's in love with gets trapped in, like, this time dimension where she literally is, like, stuck and she watches time pass for, like, 1,000 years.
Oh, wow.
And when she comes back, she is like, hello, Morty.
Oh, my God.
And she's just, like, not the same. And so whenever I think of, like, this happening to Zelda, I get so scared because I just think about that. And I'm like, oh, no.
Yeah. I'm interested to see how you feel about the ending of the game. I won't say anything.
All right, yes. So that is our kind of take on the Champions and Sages. Al, where can we find you in your podcast?
Okay, I'm not really good at this. This is normally Andy's job, my co-host on the Zelda Cast, but we are at the Zelda Cast. You can find us if you go to Zelda Dungeon and look up for our podcast. We are there. We are also over at Twitter at the Zelda Cast, at Andy Spiteri, Spiteri316, at Alasyn Eletha, and wherever you get all your podcasts, you know, Spotify, Podbean, iTunes, etc. And as Andy likes to say, recommend us to a Zelda fan in your life, and that's where you can find us.
Awesome. You can find me at kadyroberts.com, Kady, or at mind_of_Kady for my Instagram. For Another Zelda Podcast, you can find us at our website, anotherzeldapodcast.com. I believe we're Another Zelda Pod on Instagram and Another Podcast on Twitter. Thank you guys so much for listening. Sorry, I'm also not very good at endings because David normally does them. But this means a lot. Al, thank you so much for joining me. This has been a blast.
Thank you for having me. This is my first time doing a podcast by myself.
Me too. So, there we go. We're in this together. Thank you guys all for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.